Okay, so you might be feeling a little anxious about what's going to happen to your wallet with a new president in office,
Yeah.
especially all this talk about tariffs, right?
Yeah.
So today, we're going to do a dive into, um, you know, how some potential economic changes under a new Trump administration
Right.
might, affect your pocketbook. And we're basing all this on helping you make smart shopping decisions,
Yeah.
before any potential price hikes hit. I mean, let's be real, there's still a big question mark over whether or how these tariffs will actually be implemented.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, let's unpack what we do know. And
Okay.
maybe you can kick us off by explaining kind of like the core issue.
Sure. Yeah. The core issue here that everyone's talking about is this Trump proposal to put a 25% tariff on goods coming from Mexico and Canada.
Wow.
And on top of that, an additional 10% on Chinese goods. That's...
Yeah, a 25% tariff on top of what we're already paying.
Yeah.
That's pretty steep.
Yeah, it's a big increase.
Yeah.
And it's causing, a lot of economists are a little uneasy about this.
Can you explain maybe for some of our listeners who aren't, economics experts, what a tariff even is?
Sure.
And why economists are predicting that this will make inflation worse
Yeah.
and kind of raise costs for businesses and consumers?
Yeah, for sure. So imagine a tariff, like a hidden tax on imported goods.
Okay.
So the idea is to encourage people to buy American-made products by making foreign goods more expensive.
Right.
But here's kind of the catch. When those imported parts and products become more expensive, businesses have to raise their prices to cover the cost, right?
Right.
And who ends up paying for that?
Right. You do.
You, the consumer.
Yeah.
So it's kind of...
So basically, tariffs are like a chain reaction,
Exactly.
pushing prices up, not even just for the imported good, kind of for everything.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
ripples through the economy.
And it's not
And it's regressive.
necessarily affecting everyone equally either, right?
Exactly, yeah. That's a really great point. It can hit lower income households the hardest because
Right.
they spend a larger portion of their income on goods.
Of course, yeah.
So they feel the pinch of these price increases the most. Some analysts estimate
Yeah.
that a typical household could see their after-tax income drop
Wow.
by $1,700 to $2,600 a year.
So before we all start, stockpiling groceries like it's Y2K all over again,
Yeah.
what's the advice from the experts?
Well, I think first and foremost, don't panic.
Okay.
Strategize.
Right.
There's still a lot of uncertainty around how these tariffs will actually play out.
Right, yeah.
But the article does highlight some practical advice from Mark Hayfale, who is the Global Chief Investment Officer at UBS Global Wealth Management.
Wow, he's got a long title.
Yeah,
Right.
he's an important guy, and he says that a 25% tariff doesn't necessarily translate into a 25%
Right.
price increase.
Okay, so that's somewhat reassuring.
Yeah.
But the article does kind of give like a shopping list, so to speak,
It does, yeah.
of items experts recommend buying before any potential price increase.
Oh, sure, for sure.
And you want to maybe touch on some of those.
Yeah, absolutely. So first on the list, electronics. So smartphones, laptops, tablets, a lot of these are manufactured overseas,
Especially China, right?
especially in China, yeah.
Yeah.
So they could be significantly impacted.
Yeah, Vivian, too, who's a financial expert, actually puts electronics
Oh, okay.
at the very top of her buy now list, so to speak,
Yeah,
if these tariffs do go into effect.
makes sense.
I mean, I can see why those are already big purchases, and any price increase is going to hurt.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and there's research to back that up, right?
Yeah. The Consumer Technology Association actually did a study
Oh, wow.
predicting that if these tariffs happen, we could see some significant price hikes for
Yeah.
laptops, tablets, video game consoles, and smartphones.
Yeah. I've been kind of thinking about getting a new phone.
Yeah.
Maybe now is the time.
Maybe.
Okay. So what else is on the list?
So next up, appliances.
Okay.
If your fridge or washing machine is on its last legs,
Yeah.
it might be time to consider replacing it sooner rather than later.
Now it's time to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've actually seen how this can play out.
Okay.
Back in 2018, Trump put tariffs on washing machines,
Okay.
and studies showed that that resulted in about a 12% price jump,
Wow.
which
It's significant.
yeah, which added, an extra $86 to $92 to the price tag for consumers.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. What else is on the list? I know the article mentions a whole bunch of other things like tools and furniture and cars, motorcycles, even tequila.
right?
Yeah, you want to touch on some of that.
Yeah, I mean, all those things could be affected. And the car market is really interesting because, well, the tariffs could affect both the cost of imported car parts and the price of finished vehicles.
Wow.
So, if you're thinking about buying a new car, it's a puzzle.
Yeah.
And then you also have to factor in things like the potential disappearance
Right.
of electric vehicle tax credit
Yeah, yeah.
under a new Trump administration.
So it's not as simple as just like buy now or wait and see.
Right.
There's so many moving parts to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like playing economic chess, and you have to think several moves ahead.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great analogy.
Thanks.
So strategic buying can definitely help.
Yeah.
But it sounds like budgeting and financial planning are really crucial
They are, yeah.
for kind of navigating this economic cycle.
Totally. Absolutely. The article emphasizes diversifying your shopping habits, supporting local producers,
Oh,
and above all, prioritizing saving.
right.
That financial cushion can make a big difference if prices really start to climb. It really highlights, like how complex economics is, right? Like,
Yeah.
the idea behind tariffs is to help American industries and protect American jobs, but the reality is, way more complicated than that.
It's kind of ironic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because if prices go up because of tariffs, people are going to tend to buy less.
Right.
And that could actually hurt businesses and lead to job losses,
Exactly.
which is, kind of the opposite of what
Right.
tariffs are supposed to achieve.
It's a tough balancing act.
Yeah.
And I think, this article kind of hints at something really important, which is understanding, how these tariffs might affect things.
Right.
It's not just about knowing what to buy now. It's about understanding, like, the broader economic forces at play and how they can affect your personal finances.
So it's less about stocking up on certain items
Right.
and more about just taking a step back and looking at your budget, right?
Yeah.
Are there places where you can cut back? Ways to save more?
Right.
Can you, change up your shopping habits?
Right.
These are all things to consider, regardless of what happens with
Yeah.
the tariffs, right?
Absolutely. And the article also emphasizes the importance of supporting local producers.
Okay.
If tariffs make imported goods more expensive,
Right.
then that could give local businesses a chance to step in and fill that gap.
That's a really interesting point.
Yeah.
So these tariffs could, like, inadvertently lead to a shift in consumer behavior,
Right.
encouraging people to think more about, like, where their goods are coming from
Yeah, for sure.
and the impact of their purchasing decisions.
Absolutely.
It's almost like an accidental, push towards more mindful consumption.
You hit the nail on the head. It's about thinking about the true cost of what we buy, not just the price tag.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Which kind of brings us back to this whole idea of, financial literacy.
Yeah,
This article is kind of like a call to action, I think,
for sure.
for consumers to be more proactive and informed about their money, right?
Totally. Totally.
It's about giving yourself the tools to make good decisions, whether it's, adjusting your spending, looking into alternatives, or just being aware
Right.
of how policy changes might affect you.
Yeah,
I mean, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to your finances, right?
absolutely.
The more you understand these economic forces, the better prepared you are
For sure.
to, navigate them.
Exactly. This can be helpful with that. It's about connecting the dots, seeing the big picture,
Yeah.
and just feeling more confident about making, informed choices.
I think it's, the article is mostly focused on practical advice, like,
Yeah.
okay, here's what to do. But it does also touch on some bigger questions about,
Right.
how effective tariffs even are as economic policy.
Right. Yeah. It mentions some of the downsides, like
Right.
the higher prices for consumers, but potential job losses,
Right.
and even retaliation from other countries.
Yeah, it could lead to a trade war,
Right.
essentially.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. And those are all like super complex issues with,
Yeah.
no easy solutions.
For sure. It's a good reminder that economics isn't a
Right.
perfect science.
Yeah. There are multiple perspectives and possible outcomes
Yeah.
to think about.
Yeah. It's complex.
Yeah, it's messy
It is.
and it's never straightforward.
Right.
Right.
Never.
So that makes it all the more important to stay, curious,
Yes,
keep learning,
for sure.
and be ready to adapt as
Yes.
things change.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point.
Okay, so just to kind of like wrap up this part of the deep dive,
Okay.
I think, there are a few key takeaways for our listeners.
Yeah.
The first one is don't panic.
Right.
Take a breath and just kind of assess the situation.
Absolutely.
Second, be proactive.
Yeah.
Use this information we've been talking about today to make good decisions about your spending and saving.
Right.
And then finally, stay informed.
Yeah,
Keep learning about these issues and how they might affect you.
absolutely.
We've covered a lot of ground today, but as always, there's a lot more to learn.
For sure.
And we encourage you to do just that.
Yeah.
Dig deeper, ask questions, don't just take things at face value.
Right.
The world of economics is full of surprises,
Oh.
and the more you understand it,
Yeah.
the better off you'll be. It's funny, we've been talking about all these like big ticket items,
Right.
like electronics and cars and
Yeah.
appliances.
Yeah.
But these tariffs could also affect the prices of like
Sure.
everyday things too.
Yeah, for sure.
Like groceries.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In fact, the article quotes a food economist who points out that if these tariffs are placed on fresh produce from Mexico,
Okay.
we could see price increases on things like tomatoes, avocados, peppers.
Which makes sense because Mexico is like a major supplier of those goods,
Yeah.
especially when they're out of season here in the U.S.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, those like seemingly small price increases
Right.
on, individual items
Yeah.
can really add up over time, right?
Absolutely. Especially for families who are already, kind of struggling to make ends meet. Like those price increases can make
Yeah.
a real difference
Yeah, of course.
in their budget
Yeah.
and their ability to, put food on the table.
It's a good reminder that, these economic policies
Yeah.
can have all these like unintended consequences,
Right.
right? That ripple outward and touch everyone,
Yeah.
especially the most vulnerable among us.
Yeah, it really highlights like how complex and interconnected our economic system is.
Totally. Yeah, and it's like sometimes hard to predict,
It is. Yeah.
how those ripples are going to spread.
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess that kind of brings us to like the end of this. And I'm wondering if you could leave our listeners with like one main takeaway.
I think the most important thing is to be prepared, not panicked.
Okay.
We've talked about a lot of practical steps you can take, like strategic buying, budgeting, supporting local producers.
Right.
But, beyond that, it's really about staying informed and staying engaged.
Yeah, pay attention.
Yeah, pay attention to what's happening.
Do your own research.
Do your own research. Ask questions.
Yeah, don't just take, everything you hear
Right.
at face value.
Exactly.
And I think, also remember that you're not alone in all of this.
Yeah.
We're all kind of navigating these, economic uncertainties together.
Yeah, we are.
And, by sharing knowledge, supporting each other,
Yeah.
and just making informed decisions,
Right.
we can hopefully weather whatever comes next.
Well said. Well said. And on that note, maybe we could leave our listeners with just a one final thought.
Yeah.
As we kind of move forward in this new era, it's important to remember that economic policies, they're not set in stone.
Right.
They change and they adapt, and they're constantly, being debated and refined.
Yeah.
So, your voice matters in that conversation.
Yeah.
Stay informed, stay engaged, and make your voice heard.
Well, that's a great note to end on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.